Oh, hi, Will. And hi, Sharon. And Joe.
Okay, we get started here in a minute, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Finkelstein. I'm the co-founder of Alumni Direct, and we've created a free digital community designed for alumni by alumni. And what we've created is an affinity-based organization where we've designed this for real college graduates just like you. And our goal is to provide easy access to resources and tools that you might not get from specific university-based alumni groups. And we're real excited tonight. This is our launch of our webinar series. We're trying to create these to provide value to our alumni. And what we do is we're welcoming our guests on our Facebook page to inform, educate, and inspire. And if you're not following us right now, please follow us on Alumni Direct's Facebook page. We're all in a difficult time here, and during this time, it's really important to reach out and have that online community for your support and your guidance. And Alumni Direct is here for you. And what we've done is today's topic for our first webinar is communicating in the new age and keeping in touch during COVID-19. And our special guest tonight is Sheila Finkelstein. And I'm kind of give you a quick background on her. Over the years, she's just been a lot working and helping people. She likes to focus on life and relationship coaching, writing and photography, and kind of what's near and dear to her is teaching and working with seniors. And some of the things that she's done is she started a company called technologyforseniors.madeeasy.com about 7 years ago to really reach out and help the senior and boomer population. And back in 2013, she was given a Lifetime Achievement Award. And this was by a Women in Commerce group. And it was given to her for her work with seniors. And then more recently, probably, I guess, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, she was a special guest on an online women's commerce event. And what her role in that event was teaching people how to use Zoom, communicating with people, doing meetings, hosting meetings, webinars, etc. So with that, what I'd like to do is introduce Sheila. How you doing tonight? We can't hear you. See, this is the technology for seniors. We gotta teach
I understand that, but you know what? The most important thing, and actually somebody that came from the webinar I did, is that it's okay to be vulnerable and we don't have to be perfect. And so if I show that I'm not perfect, it helps everyone else out there also.
There you go. That's great. So what we've done is we put together some questions for you. And then also everybody out there on Facebook Live, feel free to go in the chat session and ask your questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can. So what I'm going to do first, the first question, and some of these are two-part questions, so kind of listen to the question and then answer freely to that, is for many people, technology could tend to be scary or overwhelming. Some people might say, hey, I'm technology illiterate. And so what kinds of things, I guess, would you work with and help them communicate? How do you teach them how to communicate, maybe some of the different tools they want to communicate with their friends, their colleagues, their family? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Well, thanks for the introduction and thanks for inviting me. I feel honored that I'm your first speaker. And of course, I have been a member of Alumni Direct and really appreciate how you're growing and what you're doing for everyone. Am I echoing?
No, you sound great.
Okay, thanks. But one tip is to, when you're on a webinar like this, is to get the phone off the hook. I don't know if you remember the days when the phones were on a hook. Anyway, as far as working, people have a lot of fears. When my sons try to convince me to get a computer years ago, I was like afraid I was going to break something and do something. And so I can understand the fears. I happen to be one that loves making discoveries and curiosity. So I like to instill that in people. The first thing in working with someone, anyone, and even like each of you teaching yourself, is what is it you want to accomplish? And definitely eliminate the illiterate. When Suki the other day said that, I went like this, because my mission throughout whatever I've done is to have people believe in themselves and that they can do it. And the way to do this is to simply break it down as to what one wants to accomplish and how important it is. Now, I find a lot of people today, and seniors or older people that have never been on the computer, don't want to be, don't want to do anything online, don't want to pay bills online, don't want credit cards, because they're afraid somebody's going to spam them or find them. We're known out there, even if we don't do a thing online. Google your name and you can be amazed at the amount of information, even though you've never done anything online. So my first step is to reassure people to get what it is they want to be accomplishing, to have confidence, to simplify, and just focus on that. In terms of needing to be connected, now, especially, everyone does have to have an email. I can help them set up an email address, a Google email address, free. In order to get anything now, and it's so important, people are ordering online, is have credit card. People are afraid of that. And I'll tell them to get a small credit card with a $500 balance, or not balance, but limit, so that they don't have to worry about that. And so it's a matter of setting that up. And then presumably, if they have devices, I tell people, some people have computers, had computers in the past and forget how to use them. It's not necessary for most people today, unless you're in business, to be, and even in business, you can work on a tablet or iPad, an Android tablet or a phone. So it's understanding that and starting to feel comfortable and just breaking it down. There are only two things you have to remember with Apple anyway, and Google, is your password. And it gets tough when people don't have their passwords and we can't get into the, I'm not that technically skilled to get them into things. So does that pretty much answer your question? There are a lot of.
That answers it. I appreciate that. And here's another question. Right now there's just a lot of people as business owners or employees. A lot of people are working remote, and it's just a whole different world for us. So how can we use our devices more efficiently? And then the second part of the question is, what are some of the tools that we can use to communicate?
Well, first thing in efficient is actually, and I can speak it, don't always do it myself, is really to be aware of scheduling and notice what things are. So this is going to combine with things. So there are different calendars that people can use. And I think one of the things that hold people up, they're so used to getting notifications when email is there. And I remember AOL back and sound, is to turn off notifications, know how you can turn off notifications. Just get those that you need. You can be setting reminders and different things like that. And I think I'm collapsing the questions, but what was the first part of that?
Just asking, how can we use devices more efficiently?
Okay, well, the best way to use them more efficiently is to know them and what they can do, particularly in the with our smartphones now. It amazed me, and she's going to go on. It amazed me that I was talking to somebody, a couple of different people that have been top CEOs of companies, had iPhones, and didn't even know the things they could do with, hey Siri, write me a note to call Rob after this.
Okay, I created a note. Call Rob after this.
Okay, I can then create a reminder, so that sits in my notes. I can create reminders and then schedule in the reminders app. So it's knowing what's possible there. I've asked Siri to make phone calls. Actually, this is a good example in terms of efficiency. Many of us multitask, and I was making dinner and I had something that needed 9 tablespoons, or 9 tablespoons with 1 or 2 servings. So instead of going to Google like we used to do, typing it in, I just said, hey, you know who, 9 tablespoons equals how many cups? And it was there in an instant. So it could barely do anything. I've been in a car and I've heard a radio station or something I wanted to listen to, and the red light, I'll just tell her to get, to find the answer. And to make a note and remind me, and then go back and check them. I checked with a former iPhone user who's now Android, and the Android equivalent of hey, you know who is hey Google or okay Google. So well, if you're new, any of you could try that now if you want. It's not going to interrupt us. So that's like knowing the phone, knowing the reminders, knowing the privacy settings, knowing the notifications, and becoming familiar with it. Obviously, if knowing it is becoming familiar with it. And this can be a great tool. They can put it in the calendar. And I had a laugh at myself. I shut down my computer and started again with a fresh computer. When you start a Zoom conference like this, it's a good thing to be kind of clean. And I couldn't get the link to this. I had totally forgotten. Once I set up in my calendar, I put the link there. All I had to do was go into my calendar. The link was right there and went into it. In the calendar, you can set notifications, and I have my calendar remind me 15 minutes before, and I'll get a pop-up of that. Another friend, and this is one way of your efficiency, and I know some people here uses Google Calendar and color codes her meetings and things like that to become efficient. See that? And she has reminders set. Just look at what it is you're spending time on and rethink that and reschedule. That's one thing. You pop in a notification, you check email constantly, and sort of set up some patterns for yourself also.
Okay, I'm assuming that the same thing could be done on a tablet or an iPad as well.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sitting here. I'm surprised that my iPad didn't also look up that question. I just asked her write a note for me. But yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and I know it's been interesting. We've been utilizing Zoom a lot on corporate calls and doing different tours, and people kind of turning their camera around and taking us through tours on facilities. So it's been quite interesting. Next question I have for you is, this quarantine. It's a really interesting time, and I think people, somewhat people have a lot of time on their hands, fortunately or unfortunately. And I think that first part of the question is maybe what are some of the things that they can do? And also, I've heard you mention in the past about, maybe this is a good time to collect different memories, talking with family and friends and things to that nature. So can you share your thoughts on that?
I'd be delighted to do that. And can we back up a minute? I was
Sure.
working off of my head and I actually took notes. I want to say also, before for this last particular question, you can also, if you want to know how you're spending your time or you want to track it or kind of keep yourself focused, I use toggle.com, TOGGL, which I can even set up. You set a certain amount of time and it can remind you, or I will just record in different categories how I've used certain times. So you can go back at that and really find out how you're spending your time. And also if you're billing clients or anything like that, they have a whole client setup. There's a professional setup for that too, but that's another tool. So that's toggle.com. I also use Time Trade, and there are a couple of other appointment setters to schedule, I have to go in and keep reminding my calendar once a week and set it up, but I can set up, like I have an offer for people that they can set up a free 30-minute session and they just go there and can set the time. And then lastly, I also wanted to say, I don't know if you've used or how many people are using a password manager. I don't know if there's a lot of time some people might be spending checking out or looking up their passwords. And I'm kind of really rigorous about that. First of all, and this one of the first things I work with my clients is to have a password manager. So most of the people I know, professionals in internet marketing, use LastPass, but there are some others. all you have to remember is your password for that. And it's never safe to have lists of passwords around. And then you can have all kinds of complicated passwords for all they can set up for you, and go right into all your different accounts and whatever else you need. So it's the security. And again, hopefully nobody here, and I go that into Zoom, is using the same password for anything. Always have distinct and separate passwords, and easiest to manage in the password manager. Okay, so that's all into tools for efficiency.
Okay, great.
Now, okay, so what can people be doing now? My last venture before going back to senior to the focusing right now, especially because of the time, it's critical that people be able to use technology now minimally. Anyway, was your untold stories. We found that my parents, my cousins, we don't remember our parents' stories. And even I remember talking about the thing, it's a good time to be, if you have the loved ones with you, going over photo albums. I know my husband died over 12 years ago, and people were saying we should go through albums. And I just never thought to take the time to sit with him. I have things, I don't remember what they were. I would have loved to have said, and what's your fondest memory? Look at the picture, and what's your fondest memory? What do you remember most? And things like that. I'm fortunate, I have letters and I have other things that I've kept. A lot of people don't have that. But right now, again, with the phones, I am passionate about the recorder, because not only is it interviewing our parents, and we older ones could be telling our stories, but anytime we hear anything is to stop. If you're telling me something nice about myself, or you're recalling something, I say, hey, pause. Do you mind if I record that? Can video record. People don't want to be spontaneously, the hair and everything else. Just record it and keep it. And you can always go back and take videos. So on my you'reuntoldstories.com/guide, we'll give you these links. I have list of how to do it. On that page is an example. When my granddaughter brought her then boyfriend over about 6 years ago to meet me, they were in Chicago, though she was born here. And they started telling what they liked about each other, and they're giggling. And they said, he said, you could put us in an all white room with nothing in us but the two of us, and we'd find something to laugh about. Well, that was a treasure, a gem. I said, do you mind if I record it? And so I audio recorded, I videoed up some pictures. And when I came to this Your Untold Stories, they're now married, with permission, I asked if I could put that into video format. And I grabbed some pictures. They didn't want their video shown per se. And so they have that. Now, the reason I recorded it was because I figured if they got married and were having some down days, they might like to look at it, listen, and their kids would. And so that's one thing. And that reminded me, another tool I use is Evernote, back to the last question. Evernote.com, which I can record as a paid member. It's free, but keep notes. They're in all my different devices. And that's just really a help to being efficient. So then back to the stories, I wanted to I wanted to know what my kids and grandkids wanted to hear, or what they would have liked to have known. It was very interesting. My kids weren't very active in asking. I guess they were too busy. Maybe now that we're all in already, they're still probably even busier now than before, was what they'd like to know. And I have one grandson who decided he wanted to interview me in person, and he wanted to find out his way more about himself, knowing about his grandfather. So we did short video clips. There's some spontaneous videos, and I have a link. So the one video is on the guide page, and then get the guide. In the guide, there's a link to family videos, or I can leave that I'm sharing with permission of my grandchildren. Never ever put anything public unless you have permission. I do a lot of YouTube recording, and it's unlisted. Nobody can see it unless they have the link, and it's not searched by Google. So I think, so anyway, so what people can be doing now in their busy times is recording the memories, ask your grandchildren, if you have grandchildren, what they'd like to know, or yourself, if there's stories that you know you want them to remember or know, or what you're known by, or what you want to be known for. When my late brother-in-law was scheduled for surgery with a 25% chance of survival, I went into Philadelphia and I did individual clips of what he most appreciated about each of his children and grandchildren, so that they would have that. Fortunately, he survived that operation and he lived for another year, I think, or more. But there's just so much we can do and play. And people are playing games. They're socializing more on Zoom. I'm hearing mahjong and other things. And as you know, entertainment's being gone, free entertainment on the devices or on TV, etc. So I talked a lot. Did that cover?
Yeah, you covered a lot there, and it's great because I think it is important to have memories and to be able to go back in the future and kind of listen to things. I think that's all great tips. And now what we'd like to do is if we have any questions out there, we'd like to answer some of those questions, and then I'll kind of wrap things up.
So those of you that are live here, Suki is managing this on Facebook. This is being on Facebook Live. And I forgot to record.
Right. So anybody out there, just feel free to send us questions on Facebook.
And if there's anybody here who has questions, you use the chat, please. I mean, at the bottom, if you don't know, oh, hi, Karen. If you don't know how to use chat, there's just a chat button there, and click on that and it will bring up a chat, and you can chat to everyone. You can chat to individuals privately.
Okay, we do have a question here. It seems if you haven't used Zoom before, what advice would you give?
Okay, well, you can get my guide or get my tips. That's one of the things that I'm offering people here. The biggest, well, number one, does the person want to use it for conducting meetings or getting on meetings, facilitating meetings? Zoom is a free account. And if you go to zoom.us, I mean, I could talk on Zoom for an hour. You go to zoom.us, they'll answer your questions. In the very front, they have a whole series of things. The easiest way I found to get an answer to your question on Zoom, if you go to the very bottom of the page, there's a big black banner with all kinds of links. Go next to the left, next to the far right, and there is a support column, support, and go down there and click on support center, and you'll see all kinds of videos and information, etc. But the easiest way is there's an empty space at the top. Type search in. And I've spent hours looking for stuff, and I just type into search what it is I'm looking for. In the past week, I've found several different things just by doing that.
Okay, here's another question. You mentioned using a calendar. It seems to have many pages. Which do you record?
Say that again?
You mentioned using a calendar. It seems to have many pages. Which do you record, or which do you use?
Well, I happen to have iCal, and the calendar, because I have all Apple devices, iOS devices. There's Google calendars. Very often when you go schedule to be in a meeting or a webinar or something, they'll ask you if you want to put it on your calendar. Sometimes iCal isn't there, but it just seems to know when it asks me if I want to enter it in my calendar, and I enter it in my calendar. Does that seem to answer that question?
Yeah, I think so. What devices would you recommend seniors use to keep in touch with their grandchildren or their friends? That fits into the category from before.
Well, I personally think the iPad is the easiest to use, but then there's the Android, so I'm partial to that. There are other tablets, and it depends on what they're using for a phone. So it's there, but then in using it, they have, and for older seniors, there's another thing that there's GrandPad that my daughter-in-law's mother didn't want anything to do with the internet or anything, but she wanted to keep just in touch with photos and grandchildren, and she got that.
That's great.
Yeah, but I would personally like to go beyond, so you can do the internet and get more expanded as you get to know to use it. So again, it's the tablet or the iPad. Now, how to connect? Very often, which is kind of interesting, kids will get their grandparents or parents an iPad so that they can use FaceTime. You've probably heard that, and I think they may add more people. But then the parents are left in a lurch because they don't really know how to use their iPad. So they're sharing, in that way. So they're sharing directly that. And then, of course, there's Zoom. I mean, there's Snapchat, there's texting programs. So I hope that helped a little bit. Again, if anybody wants more questions, if you're on Facebook, you can, I'm Sheila Finkelstein or Sheila Finkelstein, you can messenger me, send me a message with your question if I'm not answering it here, and I will get back to you, or a way to get back to you. Give me your email and I'll email you, and I'll be happy to give you more information.
Can you give us a quick example to share your screen, like how somebody would share a screen?
Well, okay. What would you like to? Well, since I talked about the family videos, let me just mention that, because I'm really proud of that, and I thank my grandkids for giving me your permission to use it. Except, come on, okay. One thing too, whenever you're setting up for Zoom and to screen share, try to close as many windows as possible. First of all, as far as saving your, when you say, sometimes you'll see a red bar and the internet connection isn't as great as possible. So what I'm doing now, well, you know what, why don't I, since I'm using YouTube, let me screen share right now, go back.
And the screen share on Zoom is on the bottom, and that's something that.
Well, that's another thing. So here's the thing, I'm glad you mentioned that. Let me explain that. The bottom control bar has screen share on a computer. For those of you that are on computer, probably see mute, audio, participants, chat, screen share. If you do the participants, by the way, that'll show you everybody that's on here, unless that's been blocked. The record and reaction. The one who's doing a meeting, there's also a security thing set up now that you can manage some controls. Mine has polling and breakout rooms, which is something that's new. I don't use them, but it's there to be used. And there's even a way to get live, Facebook Live, another tip I didn't do yet. Okay, so when you get to screen share, you have the option of a single page or share desktop. Now, if you're sharing desktop, be aware that if you're jumping through mail or something, oh, well, all that stuff is done anyway. Okay, I'm going to share Google Chrome right now because I don't think I'm going to anyplace else. I'm surprised this kept up everything I had on here before. So be aware of that. I'm always learning something new. Okay, do you see my YouTube channel now? Now you see the last thing I did. Sorry about that.
That gets back to, like you said, showing, having too many things open on your screen. I think we get the, you showed how to share the screen. A couple other quick questions that came up that.
But I wanted to show my video thing. Okay, go ahead. Ask me the questions as I. Yeah, but you see what I'm right as I did the thing. All right. Well, then I'll have you go to the thing. I'll just tell you the link for that is you go to youruntoldstories.com/family videos.
Okay.
Rob, I see a couple questions here that maybe Suki hasn't. How do you attach?
Yeah, I've got a few more that I'll ask you here real quick.
Okay.
Somebody asked, how do you attach your computer to the TV screen so everything is larger?
Yeah, that's the question I was looking at. Well, they're probably, I see my son Joe is here. He might be able to answer that, or I had someone that also did a thing. One of the things that's really interesting, I know Carol has Apple and there's Apple TV. Could we ask Joe to perhaps answer that?
We'll just keep what we can get. We'll just come back on that one. Just maybe
Okay.
we can type a note on that. We have an aunt who refuses to get a smartphone. How do we convince her to get one?
Well, I guess, well, number one, why do you want her to have a smartphone? What is she using now is the question. The thing is to talk to people and find out, first of all, why she doesn't want the smartphone. Is she afraid of it? Is it eyesight? By the way, there's also, when you get used to settings, there are, you can make text larger, you can talk, dictate. There's a lot of things. And perhaps that person would ask about getting an iPad. Share first, ask why the aunt doesn't want the connection. And I know there are people that are resistant, and just listen. And then ask, don't tell them why, and just ask, can I tell you why it's important to me? And wait and see if they ask. I mean, let you give the answer. Don't tell them anything. Just say, it's important to me. Can I tell you why? And have a conversation like that. Get into their space, what it is, what the fears are, they need help, and then why it's important to you.
Okay, great. So those are all great questions, and we really appreciate your time tonight. And we can share some links on our site for some of your different websites. So again, we appreciate it. Thank everybody. Thank you all for joining.
Excuse me, Rob. Somebody
Yes.
here answered without even writing. If you'd read on how to connect to the TV.
Okay. Thank you for the answer here. So the answer for connecting is to connect a laptop or TV, use an HDMI cable to the HDMI port at the back of the TV. When using the remote, you would click on the input button for the TV and then pick out the HDMI port. So that's one way. The other way I've seen sometimes too is depending on what device you have. We used to have from the Android phone sometimes on Samsung, you're actually able to connect to your TV that way, through the app, like depending what your TV is. So I've done, if you got a smart TV, that's another way to do it from your phone.
And from your computer.
Well, right. From the computer, you can do, there's some ways that you can do it wirelessly through Bluetooth or like this HDMI cable. So anyway, again, thank you. We appreciate everybody joining. And, Alumni Direct is, it's really an amazing tool to stay in contact with your friends from college. We also have different nationwide offers for savings, and really we want to become that online community for you. And it's completely free to join. If you go out to our website, it's myalumnidirect.com and just start tapping in. There's a lot of amazing benefits, and it's all for alumni. We really want to create that value for you. So thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you all on future webinars. As I mentioned, we're going to try to start picking some good topics and getting out. Welcome to different recommendations. And Sheila has one more thing.
Yeah. So in the, somebody asked me about the guide. I just wanted to give, and anybody that's registered will send you the links in the email. But you can find out more about me in technologyforseniorsmadeeasy.com/coaching. I'll post these in the Facebook group. Also, someone asked about the guide. I don't have the page up yet, but I will have tips and things. So after tonight, and again, if you register, we'll send these out in email. But I will have a page, technologyforseniorsmadeeasy.com/Zoom guide, one word, -AD for Alumni Direct. So, and there'll be more. So again, you can connect with me through email, through Facebook Messenger, and that's it. Thank you so much for again, honoring me with being your first guest.
All right, you're going on the Wall of Fame for Alumni Direct. Thank you.
Thank you, and much luck to you. It's a great, great program, and I look forward to your continued and expanding growth. Thanks,
Great.
Sharon. Sharon's found a reaction. I don't know if you people see it, but she's applauding.